Welcome back. Meditation. Coming out as a gay man. Depression. Anxiety. We are going to touch on all of these areas and so much more with today's incredible guest. We all have a story to share, and if you share yours, you never know how many people you will be able to help through a similar situation they are going through. I am excited because the show is stopping in Louisiana. That is a rare stop for this show. And as I want to say hello to my cousin Kim, who lives there, if she is listening on today. In addition to sharing his personal experiences, he has also led the way, helping hundreds through his research-backed meditation processes. And he is also the founder and an author. He does it all, and we're going to touch on how he keeps his mental health in check with being so busy. Before we learn all about his mental health story, let's learn how he podcasts. Michael, which platform do you stream your shows through?
Actually, Apple. So that's my main way, and I use my phone. I mostly, and then my commute to work is rather quick. I'm just a mile from my home.
Nice.
So sometimes I bike, sometimes I take the car. So really, I tend to, when I listen, it's just when I'm in the office. If I have kind of a break, I'll kind of turn something on and kind of listen that way. So
a commonality with entrepreneurs is squeezing in the podcast when they can. It's nice to be so close to work. You get the option to ride the bike, clear your head in the morning. As everyone knows, if you've been listening to my shows for a while, exercise is my mental health key. I do it every morning. Today, we were just talking about before the episode, my workout before the day began. But thank you for sharing how you podcast, Michael. And everyone listening on, thank you so much for stopping by another episode of A Mental Health Break. This is the podcast where we talk all things mental health. I am your host and author of the books Mental Health Week and Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, Vincent A. Lanci. You can learn more about me at Vincent A. Lanci on all social media or YouTube. My website is vincentalanci.com, whichever you prefer. For those of you who are new to the show, each week I sit down with mental health advocates from all over the world to share their journey relating to mental health and, more importantly, their why. I began focusing on mental health after suffering a traumatic brain injury, and that is my why. Get ready for an incredibly valuable episode. Before I bring him on, this episode is brought to you by Tampa Counseling and Wellness, dedicated to helping individuals looking to positively transform their lives through compassionate counseling and wellness coaching. If you struggle with depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues, call today for a free consultation. Tampa Counseling and Wellness, therapy that inspires change, and their info is in the show description. Just scroll down. This week, we have the incredible opportunity to have a guest who offers both personal and professional testimonials. Throughout all of his workshops with his clients, this week's guest teaches a heart and breath-focused meditation process. I learned that there is so much research showing how meditation processes like Michael teaches, so we're going to learn all about that, how it helps improve heart coherence, brain coherence, and nervous system coherence, all of which in turn help improve numerous mental and physical health issues like depression, anxiety, anger, and loneliness. Research even shows it helps improve emotional intelligence. So this is a very unique episode, everyone, and I'm happy to deliver it. I mentioned he has a book. He's an author. We had him on Writing with Authors, so scroll down this episode description to get that value. For this episode, we're going to learn about his mental health, though. So, Michael LeBlanc, thank you for joining us on another show.
No, glad to be here, and good morning, everybody. And thanks again for having me. I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Me as well. Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners who did not catch your episode on Writing with Authors?
Yeah, sure. So, Michael LeBlanc, my company is Create with Consciousness, and really, it's as an author, a coach, licensed clinical social worker. My whole journey is I really believe in helping people get clear about what they want in their life. How do we tap kind of go within. It's like I have to line up with my dream inwardly. I have to line up with the energy, the consciousness, the emotions of all that. And so I teach and do a lot of guided energy meditations to help people learn how to do that. So that whatever you're trying to improve in your life, you're in line with that. Because when you're not, you can take all the action in the world, but if underlying you is that feeling of I'm not enough and that sort of stuff, then the action doesn't really benefit, right?
And I feel like that statement you just made may be much more common among people after this pandemic, where they were locked down, their life was changed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. And it, with change, you get, some people feel more isolated. Some people like the isolation. So it kind of depends.
Yeah.
And so my work is all around that. But I got into social work first, and my master's is in social work. And my quick story on that is I was going to be a priest, and because spirituality has always been a passion, but helping others was a passion, and so that just sort of made sense. But at that time in my life, I was in college, undergrad. I was just coming to terms with being gay, and it wasn't even a word then, But and it's like I was spiritual, but I didn't find myself religious. The Bible was a part of my upbringing, but it wasn't like a main thing, and I was open to other stuff. So this whole notion of like, well, maybe you shouldn't be a priest, right? You're gay. The Bible is so. So I had a moment of wisdom in my 20s, but I met some people who were in social work and in grad school, and it's like, I could still care and love people and help people if I went that route, right? So that's kind of what led me. It was sort of from priesthood, that's a bad idea, let's go this way, and things kind of lined up, and that led me to the world of social work and grad school and getting my master's.
Well, it's a testament to sometimes you need to be patient for your true calling. He's thriving as an entrepreneur now, and he went through possibly being a priest as a college kid to ending up where he is now, a successful entrepreneur, author, and mental health advocate. From getting to know you and connecting a few times, I learned that what your practices help fight off things like depression, anxiety, anger, and loneliness. Which of those areas did you experience the most, Michael?
When I did grad school, I was leaving a relationship with a guy, and it wasn't like it was just we were moving on. I was moving to grad school and all that stuff, but it was still and I was moving to San Antonio, Texas. I'd never been to a large city before. I was
From
just
Louisiana.
I grew up in a small rural town, home of Tabasco sauce, New Iberia, Louisiana.
Okay.
And so I'm moving to a big city. I'm moving to a private college, and I don't know a soul. The middle of the summer, I get there, and it's in this horrible part of town that I didn't know about. I'd never seen the place before. And so it was just there was isolation. I was depressed. I felt anxious. My heart was hurting just with the relationship thing kind of ending, if you will, or changing for sure. But there was a part of me that's like, well, it should be better. I should feel better. Like, and I was getting into grad school to be a therapist. And so it's like, well, why don't you go to therapy? Why don't you be the person in the other chair and work through some of this stuff? And that kind of led me into that. And so my own hurt, my own isolation, my own depression, anxiety. I wouldn't say there were thoughts of suicide from the sense of just wanting the pain to end, not like
right.
I really wanted my life to end. But all that sort of really prompted me to seek some therapy on my own while I started grad school to be a therapist. And it started getting better. And then that kind of evolved, right? That personal growth journey just really, I don't know that it ever kind of stopped.
Well, was there a reason that you chose studying for a therapist at college? Was it something you always wanted to do, something related to mental health?
No.
I know you maybe want to be a priest, but I'm saying once you passed that point, what made you choose therapy?
I met people at that time who were getting their masters in social work. And so as I talk to them, it's like, well, that's kind of what I want to do. And I can do it there. I could do it as a priest, but I could still do it there, right? As a social worker and in the therapy realm. And I really wanted to do more one-on-one, and some group, some family, but really the one-on-one was more appealing to me. And so I started researching social work schools that were more clinically based, but more individual practice versus administration or research, all that kind of stuff. And there was this little small private school in Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio, Texas. And I applied to the one school and I got in and then went from there.
So, got to ask you 3 quick questions here.
Yeah.
Where did you like living more, Louisiana or Texas?
It's interesting. When I found Austin, then I would say Texas. No other place in Texas have I lived that I prefer. But Austin's a unique thing in its own. And I was there probably 15 years, and I was in my 20s and 30s. I probably left right around when I was 40 and came back to Louisiana. And I've been in Louisiana since then.
Austin is on the bucket list for me still. It's still a place I haven't gotten to.
Yeah, it's a very outdoor city. So at that time I was into rock climbing and I loved hiking, and you could, within the city limits, you could do all that. So it was a great, and it was just one of those weird kind of hippie, back in the day.
All right. Well, that's question 1. My second question is, where did you like the food better, Louisiana or Texas?
Probably Louisiana for sure. There's something about fresh seafood and all the spices we enjoy. I've traveled a lot I took a break from social work and went into the corporate world of consulting and training, and I got to visit about 30 countries. And I would say, wow, by food, India was my favorite country by food.
That's great. And the third question is, where would you recommend someone to go vacation, not live, Texas or Louisiana?
I would say Louisiana, actually. Austin, yes, would be great because it's the hill country. There's lakes. It's a beautiful place. There's just, Southern Louisiana is just a very unique world to its own. And I've been able to go kayaking in the Atchafalaya Basin, and it's like you're entering back into prehistoric time with these massive cypress trees and and the food and the culture and all that.
I love it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to give the listeners a little detour for mental health because we had the conversation come up, but we'll go back to mental health here now, Michael. What's some mental health tips you can offer our audience, whether short-term or long-term? What are some things that work well for you that may also work well for our audience? Because as you know, what works well for some doesn't work well for others. I want to provide them with as many tools as possible.
Sure. What has worked the best for me has been approaches that incorporate kind of mind, body, energy, emotion, right? It's kind of like cognitive behavioral did not really cut it for me. It didn't rewire my nervous system.
Okay.
And when you got depression, when you got anxiety, when you got your nervous system has been set a certain way. And when you're trying to overcome that, you're up against the momentum and the autopilotness, if you will, of your nervous system. And so meditation, part of my passion around it is, as I go into meditation for myself, you enter into different states of consciousness. If you were wired up and your brain waves were being measured, your brain waves would shift accordingly. Your brain waves aren't the cause, it's really your shift in consciousness that's the cause. But as you go into those states, you're now in different states of consciousness, but what's happening there is different states of energy are happening there. Those cause your system to rewire. The reason I teach the heart breath focus is research is showing when I breathe and center and focus on my heart center, and I just sort of meditate in that space, and that's what I teach people to do, you start improving the rhythm of your heart through that process. As you do that, you improve the coherence of your heart. The research is showing that the brain and the heart talk all the time. There's neuroconnectivity between the two. But 90% of the neuroconnectivity is ascending. It's going from your heart to the brain. It's not the other way around. So the brain's not really ruling everything as I was taught, back. And so what they're finding is if you improve the rhythm and coherence of your heart, now you're sending better information to your brain. Your brain starts resignaling your nervous system. And now all those things related to depression and anxiety from a biological and neurological point of view, those start improving. So research shows, like for fight flight, that chronic stress response, like that amygdala, that part of the brain, as you improve your heart coherence, you improve your emotions. That sends different neuropeptides into the body. Those actually reach into the amygdala and start shutting it off and chilling it out. So every time I am anxious and I do this breath and heart meditation, I'm interrupting an old wiring and I'm training my body how to rewire. And it can reach into the parts of the brain that positive thought, affirmations, behavior don't really do that. The other is depression, the hippocampus in both hemispheres, chronic depression literally shrinks that part of the brain in it. But what they're finding with meditation in a consistent way, it's actually allowing the brain to it's kind of like rebuild, like the hippocampus regrows, if you want to say. And the research is showing, so it improves depression and all those things that even chronic states aren't permanent. They're just chronic. It's easy to go there because if it's been practiced a while, your nervous system just defaults to it. It's kind of like driving. When you first drove, you had to pay attention to everything, and then it gets on autopilot. And now you can drive and do all kind of stuff, and you can be A to B, and you don't even remember the drive, but you did it all because it's on autopilot. So with chronic states of like depression, anxiety, or even anger, it's just really, you become hardwired to go somewhere, but it doesn't mean it's permanent. It does mean it's chronic. So when I consistently improve my heart coherence, it improves my brain coherence, it improves the working of my nervous system, but all of that starts changing my neurology, my biochemistry. And every time I interrupt the pattern of the old stuff, I'm rewiring myself for the new stuff. The consistency matters because now I'm starting to spend more time in better emotional states, which means my neurology, my biochemistry, all that's going to be giving my cells more time to kind of return really to wellness instead of always being out of it. It's been really exciting I got into meditation for spiritual reasons. But it has helped me with my depression, with my anxiety. Anytime and it doesn't mean life is still life, but I know exactly what to do when I get thrown and I start feeling anxious or worried, or I know exactly how to put the brakes on that stuff. I know I can do it in 2 to 5 minutes. I don't have to dedicate an hour to meditation. I know if I meditate longer, it's better. I know if I do it more frequent and don't let myself. So let's say something in life or my partner or whatever triggers me, right? And now I feel anxious about something and I'm starting to kind of go down that track and all the doubts and the worry about things working out or kicking in or whatever. The longer I stay there, the worse it's going to get, right? The sooner I can interrupt any of it, the better, right? But it doesn't, when you're chronic, you can go from 0 to 100 like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's happening outside of your awareness. You just notice you're feeling anxious and your mind really didn't dawn on anything. I used to wake up anxious a lot. I would just wake up. It's like, that's all I did. I promise I just woke up. And, but the moment I do use my breath and focus into my heart center, when I sense my breath and when I sense this heart space, I'm not focusing on my physical heart, just this space. But when I sense it, when you sense you're not thinking, you're interrupting thought. Chronic depression, chronic anxiety, you've got trains of thought that are just dragging you around. And if I want to get that back, the moment I start sensing here and sensing my breath here, I'm starting to detach from the thinking. I'm starting to detach. Now, my feelings aren't going to change like that. My feelings will follow my focus always. If I linger in this space long enough, my feelings, so that if I went to 0 to 100, and I keep sensing my breath here, I'll get from 100 to 80, and I'll feel it. I'll feel the shift. I'll get from 80 to 60. I'll feel the shift, right? So just your breath, if I make myself breathe as if all is well, and I do it long enough, my feelings will start following my focus. But I got to stay with it till I notice the feeling shift. The feeling shift means my consciousness is starting to shift, my biology is starting to shift, and when my biology starts to shift, now I'm rewiring myself for something better. So affirmations don't reach into those parts of the brain. I can say all day long, life is good, and I can still feel like shit at the same time. I'm that talented, right? But if I stay with my breath and breathe as if all is well, and breathe into this heart space, I will continue to detach from those lines of thought. If I stay with it long enough, I'll start feeling the improvement. Feeling the improvement means I really am rewiring myself. If you do it and you're consistent, in 2 minutes, you can start interrupting that. I can start taking that 100 miles an hour and bring it down to 50. What people need to realize, if you bring it down to 50, you're interrupting something, you're rewiring something better. So it's like, don't underestimate what going from 100 to 50 does. You might not be at 0. I might not go from depressed to bliss, right? But if I can go from depressed to just feeling better, well, yeah, right.
I want to talk on a few great points you made. It's not a miracle drug, and that's something I had thought when I first started meditating. An unrealistic expectation I had for it, that everything was just going to go away. Life is still life. I liked how you put that. You have to put in the work, and it's all about baby steps in the right direction. You can't go 0 to 100, 100 to 0, 100 to 90, 100 to 50, like you're saying. I really appreciate how you brought that perspective up, because in this time, especially after COVID, it's go, go, go. No time to stop. We need to find ways to just take us back to our baseline. And you just offered a great analysis for that. This is what you're working on now, right? You're all in on the meditation processes.
I do. It's what I do with every client. I record I do customized meditations because everybody's coming in for different reasons. So even if you're coming in to like, I want to improve my finances, I want to improve my business, it's like, well, let's do guided meditations around the energy of that. But one of my clients, she came in, some PTSD symptoms for sure, trauma in her childhood,
right.
A lot of issues there, anxiety, depression, isolation, alcohol. And all I did, I was like, I don't want to talk about any of the why this is. I said, are you willing to do some energy work and breath work and meditation work? And then I also have a meditation where we do the energy centers of the body, right? So there's an energy body behind our physical body, and she was open to it. But that has been her main line of work. And she's like a whole new person. It's been a good 1.5 to 2 years. But she would send me pictures of her kitchen sink full of molded pots because she just didn't have the energy. She'd go to work, she'd come home and she was done. And then she started sending me pictures of clean kitchen, clean pots, right? And then clean rooms, and then hey, I want to quit drinking, and then she did that, and then hey, I want to improve my finances, and then she
Her
did that,
mindset is going in the right direction.
but it's like you can't do it if your energy's not there,
Mhm.
right? And so through the meditation, the breath, and the energy work, now we're just her life energy is returning, and there's a natural flow of what she wanted to start improving. She thought she could never move back to New York where her family is, and she was here, and she was, well, now we do Zoom calls, and she's in her apartment, and she's in New York, and she's got a new job, and she loves her new job, and it's just, it's a beautiful story, but it didn't happen through any traditional approaches. It really was go within, breathe. We did the meditations. I did add the energy center work. Because when you're in survival mode, which a lot of people with anxiety and depression are, your lower centers are depleted. It's like you're constantly driving your car on empty. And
that's a good way to put it.
So washing the dishes is just hard. It is. But if you can get that open and flowing again, it becomes easier.
I appreciate you putting so much thought into these answers here because of how much it's going to help our listeners. If they may have never heard of this before, you're giving them an in-depth look at your meditation processes, this guided meditation. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode because you will find out how to get in touch with Michael, the website, how to start doing this on your own. But now I am excited because we get to have his take on the Spotlight story. Each week on the show, if it's your first time with us today, my guest and I talk about the mental health journey of someone famous to let you, the listeners, know that you are not alone. And since we have a male mental health advocate on the show today, we're going to introduce the story of another in Carson Daly. And the title is How He Embraced His Anxiety Disorder. We touched on anxiety a few times today, so I hope this is a good article for our guest. For the millions of people struggling with mental health problems, diagnosis can be a crucial step in learning how to manage their frightening symptoms. This is what the article puts, helped Carson Daly. I learned that he was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which creates excessive and sometimes intrusive feelings of anxiety or worry for people who have it. He is also said to have a mild panic disorder, which is similar to what NBA star Kevin Love has been trying to manage. He opened up about his anxiety disorders and said, quote, "It's how I'm hardwired." The 29-year-old Cleveland Cavalier opened up in a personal essay about a panic attack he experienced that forced him to take a closer look about his mental health. Love said in hopes by revealing his journey, he would help others in need, like men and boys especially. For Carson, getting diagnosed with anxiety led him to learn how to cope with times his body experiences, again, this fight or flight response like we spoke about before, or moments where, quote, "I feel like a tiger's in the room, but it's not there." Learning more about the condition has also helped him to accept what he can't change about himself. I think that is crucial for everyone listening on. Some things you can't change, but instead of letting them dictate your life, you dictate them. Michael, what's your takeaway from this article?
I mean, it was a couple of things. One, it was like, I'm really glad I think there's a lot of people that just struggle, suffer in silence, and don't get help, right? So the fact that he did and he's talking about it, I think does help other people like, hey, well, I struggle with that too. Maybe I can do something and seek some help. So I'm glad about that.
Yep.
And we always want a quick fix. And I think that's why we go to medication a lot, because it can have a quicker way sometimes to change. But I'm more passionate about, well, can my body do something?
On its own. I'm with you there.
Yeah. So the only other thought I had when I hear people mention I'm hardwired that way, I think it's true, because we were talking about that. Like it's hardwiring. Where I kind of want to hold out is, but maybe that doesn't mean it's permanent. And maybe it can keep shifting, right? And as we learn more, maybe, so to me, hardwiring is true. I mean, it does go there, and it is hardwired in, and my neurology is set to go there. But I want to hold out that doesn't maybe mean it's permanent. and that maybe there is a way to keep rewiring.
That's why thank you for sharing like that. It is not permanent. Everyone listening on, there are ways to improve your mental health. If it's not meditation, it could be exercise. If it's not exercise, it could be a healthier diet. If it's not a healthier diet, you will find something that works for you. And then, as we spoke about, baby steps in the right direction to adding more mental health remedies to improve.
Yeah, because every time like just meditation, when you do it, it doesn't mean it's all gone, but trusting that I just rewired myself and I just interrupted something goes a long way.
Yeah.
A couple of things I wanted to say is, so that science is showing that the earth has an energy frequency to it that is equivalent to a coherent heart. So when I was at my worst, I was in Austin, and my friend I was renting a room from in her house, there was this little grove of trees on the side of the house. And I would literally go meditate and sit on the ground, butt on the earth, and meditate there. And the earth, I didn't know at the time why I felt better, but it would always ground me. And I grew up on a farm, so I just like being outside. So even my client I was talking about earlier, she had a big oak tree in her backyard. And I said, when it's really bad, I want you to go hug that tree. I want you to go sit outside. I want you to go sit by the tree. I said, there's an energy to that, and it will help ground you. And they're showing that there is a frequency in the earth that it is equivalent to what a coherent heart would do. So I will walk barefoot in the ground. You've got a bunch of acupressure points on the bottom of your feet. And I grew up barefoot on the farm, but it's just sometimes if you just go outside when you're feeling it strongly, the earth energy alone can help take you down a notch. So just sort of, even if it's a walk, even, you don't have to go run a marathon. Yep. Just walk.
Walks are my go-to as well. I take a few a day because I work from home most of the days. I'm walking 5-10 minutes, no phone, just getting the natural air, natural sounds, taking in everything around me. Thank you for that great piece of value, Michael. And thank you so much for the whole episode, your analysis on the Spotlight story. As I mentioned before, your thorough answers, letting everybody know that meditation doesn't have to be for hours. It can be smaller amounts, and that's something that works well for me. And most importantly, you introduced this guided meditation process to my audience that is not something I've had the opportunity to give them before. So thank you. I can't let you leave, though, without asking you for your last word.
So I was going to say, I said, I can do that heart-centered focused breath with my eyes open while I'm in line at a grocery store. I can do it while somebody is complaining to me. It's like meditation, and doesn't mean I've got to go sit quiet. It can, but I can still use my breath. I can
work,
sit,
yes.
Because you might feel anxious at the grocery store. Well, great, breathe, focus here, and do that 2 minutes, and you'll improve yourself, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Can you please tell everybody where they can find you,
Yes.
Your website, social, all things Michael, and the book? Where's the book?
So createwithconsciousness.com is my website. Michael, Michael, at createwithconsciousness.com is my email. I have a YouTube channel, Michael LeBlanc, Create with Consciousness. Michael LeBlanc, Create with Consciousness. I have a Facebook page, LinkedIn, my book. So the one that kind of helped me from a spiritual, I do talk about the meditation process and stuff in here, is Manifest Better Life with God. The other one, I do talk about tips about, like there's a chapter in here, how I went from fear to joy in 12 minutes through a journaling exercise. That's a chapter in my book, Divine Dirt. So there's a lot of how-tos in here as well. And that's at divinedirt.net. And both of these are on Amazon as well.
Be sure to check out everything Michael has to offer, including those books. He has a lot of value for you in many ways. I want to thank you again, Michael, for stopping by. But while you're checking out his internet content, be sure to check us out too. We are at A Mental Health Break on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. But on Twitter, we are at Podcast by Lanci because of the character limit. I am at Vincent A. Lanci for all social media. YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. Mental Health Week and Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health are live on Amazon. You can prime them tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week on a mental health break. Thank you, Michael.
Cool. Thank you.